because you have not done anything with that grace. Am I communicating here? Is the enabling grace. There's a grace available. There's a grace available to you, but until you do something with the grace. So Paul says, he said the grace that was given to me was not in vain, because with the grace I labored more abundantly than they all, yet not I, but the grace of God. Why? Because I am doing this because of the enablement. Are you with me? I said, are you with me? So there is an enabling grace, but it will not be visible until you do something with it. For instance, the Elohim voices. How many of you know they have the enabling grace to produce their album? Is that grace available? How many of you believe that that grace is available? Now, but you have not yet listened to any of their album. You know why? Should I tell you why? Or I should not tell you? Okay. Hear me. God makes grace available, then you labor with the grace. The grace you don't labor with becomes in vain. That is why the mortuary is full of so many people who had so much grace, but that grace was not labored with, and so the product of that grace is not seen. Am I communicating here? So look at yourself, say, call yourself by name. Say, Fidelis Ugbon, I have the grace to do all things. How many of you believe you have that grace? Now you have the grace to do all things, but it's only what you do that will be seen. Did you get what I'm saying? It's only what you do with that grace that will be seen. That is not seen does not mean you don't have the grace. Listen to me. There's a grace in you that has not yet been seen, and that grace is waiting for you to do something with it. The grace is available, but you must do something with that grace for that grace to become visible and become a blessing to your life. The grace that you don't use becomes the grace in vain. So Apostle say, I have grace, and with the grace I labored more abundantly. So hear this. Grace is not an excuse for you to do nothing. Grace is not an excuse for you to remain the way you are. Grace is not an excuse for stagnation. We have grace, and we must make use of the grace to become all that we need to become. How many of you have met somebody who tells you, by the grace of God, this time next year I'll build my house? Have you met somebody who said that before? By the grace of God, this time next year I'll build my house. How many of you have heard the person saying it again and again? The grace, by the grace of God. Now, is it that the grace has not come? The grace is there, but he has not yet builded. Am I communicating? I met some. By the grace of God, I'll marry her. By the grace of God, I will marry her. By the grace of God, I will marry her. You have seen her and you want to marry her by the grace of God. Now, the grace of God is available for you to marry her, but the grace of God will not talk to her on your behalf. Am I communicating? Now, you have a rest. There are things that grace you have cannot do for you. Even though you have the grace can't do it for you. You got to get out and do something that the grace enables you to do. You can be talking by the grace of God and marry her till she will give you her invitation card. She'll give you a wedding card. Am I communicating? She'll give you a wedding card one of these days. And then you say, what is this? This is wedding card. But, there's no but. You have been prophesying. I told you on Friday that a prophetic word does not come to pass because it was prophesied. It comes to pass when you war with it. You receive it and you war. You take it to war with it. When you take it to war, the prophetic word becomes profitable to you. You must allow the enabling grace in you to do something. So Apostle Paul says, I am what I am because of what the grace of God has done through me. With the grace, I labored more abundantly. What I don't understand with young men is what does it take to propose to a girl? What does it take? You are going round and round telling stories and you are not saying the real thing. And every year you are speaking by faith, by the grace of God. By the grace of God. The grace, if you even tired of you. There's no big deal. It can either be yes or no. If it is no, you go back, rearrange yourself, and find out why there was a no. Come on, am I talking to somebody here? Oh, thanks be to God. Be bold, be strong, for the Lord thy God is with you. Don't allow the grace of God in your life to be in vain. Don't allow the grace of God in your life to be in vain. God has so impacted you. God has so loaded you with so much grace. But if you do nothing with it, you get back to him with all of that. And you say, I gave you grace, but you did nothing with it. So the grace of God is not an excuse for you to just be there and do nothing. Let me give you a few things that the grace of God is not an excuse for. Number one, the grace of God is not an excuse for unrighteousness. The grace of God is not an excuse for what? Unrighteousness. Because there's a group of people now believe that because we are saved by grace, it no longer matters how you live. It no longer matters your personality. After all, we are saved by grace. And somebody else says that when I sin, it's my body that commits the sin, it's not my spirit. Therefore, it does not affect any spiritual thing in me. That's a lie from the pit of hell. The grace that saves you also enables you to live above sin. We are not only saved to go to heaven, we are saved to display the life of Christ. On the Bible said long after Jesus was gone, that was when they saw the lifestyle of the disciples and they said, these are Christians. Why? Because they live like Christ, they talk like Christ, they behave like Christ. We read already Romans chapter 6 verse 1. Apostle Paul said, what shall we say? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? He said, God forbid. You are saved from sin, so you cannot remain in sin. You cannot say that you are born again and you cannot be trusted with anything. Some years back, organizations, when they want honest people, people that are truthful, people that can handle their business as well, they consult the church, consult pastors. Do you have members that you can send? Because we need honest people. Today is difficult because we have many people in church who believe that once you are saved forever, and it does not matter how you live Because the grace of God covers you. Don't be deceived, sir. The grace of God is not an excuse for unrighteousness. Rather, the grace of God enables you to live in righteousness. The grace of God enhances righteousness.